Greetings, everyone. Welcome to my sketchbook. A few days ago, I was asked by Miguelito if I could draw Tom and Jerry. And I thought, oh, that could be kind of fun. So I'm going to try to do that. But before I do that, I have the pen here and all this stuff. If you've been to this channel before, you know that I try to draw from memory. And here's one of those hidden truth things. I don't think I've ever actually drawn Tom the cat before. I know I've drawn little Jerry. Like I've drawn lots of cats. I've drawn like Garfield my whole life. Well, I've doodled pictures of Garfield, but I've drawn pictures of even Heathcliff a few times. Not many people remember who Heathcliff is. Ren and Stimpy and Sylvester and Tweety, and yeah, but I don't know if I've ever drawn Tom before. So this could be fun. Well, we'll see what happens. You also know this from me saying this, that I don't like to keep references around unless I'm opening up like a Pokemon card. So I'm going to try to draw this from memory, because earlier today I watched a few classic 1940s Tom and Jerry cartoons. So I don't know. We'll see where this goes, and this will just be kind of a fun thing to start, and then this could be a two-part thing. So really, I'm just going to scratch down ideas and then go from there. So let's see what we can do. I'll zoom in on my finger here just enough so that hopefully it's not too blurry, because that has to be a bit of a nuisance. Okay, let's see what that looks like. So my understanding of Tom the cat, and I'm just going to, this is just doodling, so just sketching. Well, he's a cat, but he has extraordinary abilities to, just be on the lookout for little Jerry. Now, I'm not sure the relationship between those two. It's quite possible that they're kind of friends, but just that the little mouse is so mischievous and doesn't, it's always trying to get Jerry in trouble. I could be wrong in thinking that. Not Jerry, what am I saying? Tom, trying to get Tom in trouble. So yeah, so the first thing I'm going to do is just sort of doodle a couple of things and then go from there. Now, my understanding of Tom is that he most often he's a house cat, and he's trying to prevent little Jerry from doing terrible things most of the time. And those old cartoons, yeah, I don't know. They're kind of strange. I don't know if they're even politically correct anymore, to be honest with you. A lot different than the new versions of what you see. So again, these are just meant to be quick ideas out of my head. They're not going to be perfectly accurate to start. Now he has green eyes set in yellow eyes. That's kind of a rough idea of what I see in my head. But let's see. So he's a cat. He's a cat. And weirdly enough, I also kind of picture him making faces like the Grinch, if that makes sense. Could be similar cartoon people involved in it. I don't know. Let me see. The 1950s cartoons are pretty wild. So a lot of the cartoons that I watched when I was a kid, they were like pretty violent, and there were people that kind of wanted to ban them. Um, so like Wile E. Coyote kind of stuff. Some of the older Tom and Jerry cartoons were actually made by Hanna-Barbera. You know, the same people that went on to do, like the Jetsons and the Flintstones and that sort of thing. So that's kind of funny to think about, that it's possible that there's a connection to those Warner Brother cartoons. Another thing that's kind of funny about Tom and Jerry to me is, well, if you watch Looney Tunes, now Tom and Jerry isn't really related to the Looney Tunes. Like, not really at all, to be honest with you. They're kind of a standalone cartoon, which I think is kind of funny. Now, I don't want to have too much kind of silly stuff going on here. As I said, I've never drawn Tom before. So, and maybe the 1940s version is not the best way to go, but I'm not really ruined by that, to be honest with you. He's got really big ears. Now, there's a face that he makes. He makes a lot of faces, but let me see if I can get a version of this. Like that. High cheekbones. For some reason in this, his nose kind of sticks on the top a little bit. Maybe like that. I don't know. But it's sort of like he could be angry about something, and that doesn't really make sense, but I picture it something like this. So let me know in the comments if this is a character that you've drawn plenty of times yourself. Let's put some whiskers on these just for fun, because we know this is a cat. And yeah, he makes some funny faces. Now, I didn't do a lot of like research with YouTube. I mean, I watched the old episodes on YouTube, but I noticed that people really only do like maybe 5 different versions, maybe 3 main versions, I guess, but of Tom's face, and there's an opening sort of card, I guess you could say, that has like floating heads of Tom and Jerry, and for some reason those seem to be the most popular ones to do. Well, I'm not really likely to just draw what other people draw. That's never really been my thing anyway. Often I start with the eyes, but for some reason I feel like the more prominent thing on his face is to start with the nose. And let's draw another kind of version of angry looking eyes. But again, sort of the high cheekbone kind of thing, and maybe a little bit off to the side too. So similar to what we have going on up here, but in fact, it's very similar. And with this one, a more closed mouth. So that's like 5 sort of little groups of them. Let's try something else here. I'm going to go actually up here. So let's try, like, so we have this one that's kind of a straight on view. Well, let's try another straight on kind of view. Oh, I made that nose a little bit weird. And we'll do another kind of closed mouth, which means he just lets his chin sort of do stuff there. He's got eyes like parentheses. But for fun, let's go with kind of like a mid-lash. Like his eyes are closed a little bit. And then again, very high cheekbones. Now, you'll notice with his face, more so than Jerry, from the sides of his head, it seems like there's always going to be hairs that do that in his ears, off the side of his head. So one tipped up, one tipped down, whereas Jerry the mouse always has one that's sort of tipped up on the inside of his ear. I'm not sure, but I notice that kind of stuff, though. Let's have the hair just kind of go off to that side. And let's have the ears sort of tip down, like maybe he's thinking of something else. Great big ears. I don't know if there's other sort of doodles that I could do with Tom. For fun, what if, let's see if I can just sort of clean that up a little bit there. Something that I think is kind of fun also about Tom is that he has that same sort of minstrel thing that you see from like the 20s, 30s, right up to modern times. Basically, he doesn't wear gloves, but he has, his hands are actually almost like he's wearing gloves, which you see like Mickey Mouse, and there's a lot of characters that almost seem like they wear gloves. But he doesn't have like, a regular hand. He has basically 3 main fingers and a thumb. So I guess that sort of proves he's an animal. I'm not really sure how that works. Let me see. What else can I try with him? I'm going to try a view that I don't know if I've ever seen. So, like, what if he was sort of looking down a little bit? Well, we're not going to get to see too much of his face. That's a weird thing that I just drew. Now, the I think there's modern versions of like computer generated maybe, where his eyebrows are not nearly as prominent as the old cartoons. And so I probably should see if I can find some of those just for fun. So what do we have here? Well, actually, let's make sure we hunch in these shoulders a little bit. We'll even bring up the tail here. Now, he doesn't have his hands in pockets or anything like that because, well, he's not wearing pants, so he doesn't need to have that. But like I said, this is sort of a top-down view. A little bit. Okay, well, that's kind of interesting. Now let's see if we can try to figure out a couple of things with our little buddy, little Jerry. Now, for here, I'm just going to say these are Tom sketches. And then here, we're going to have Jerry sketches. So this is the weird thing about, having a sketchbook is it's kind of fun to just sort of play around with ideas in your head. And that's what I'm kind of doing. So, like I said, I would have drawn Jerry a bunch of times. Like some of my favorite little cartoons seem to have mice in it. So, I mean, I was always a big fan of like Disney cartoons. But like I was also a big fan of like I think his name was Topo Gigio, a little puppet. Oh, I love Topo Gigio. Um, I think it was on the Ed Sullivan Show, which is way before my time. But like, yeah, no, that little puppet was fantastic and just beautifully articulate. Little eyelashes because we're talking about adorable here, right? And sort of like wider little cheeks. Remember what I said about the ears? Inside the ear, so if we go back up here, you see how you have like a hair inside the ear that goes down and one that kind of goes up? Well, with Jerry, it always kind of tips up like that. And then you have the upper ear and great big ears. And same sort of like little, kind of like hairs that stick out off the top of the head. I think that's sort of like a typical kind of thing. But a very silly little mouse, and seems to like favor getting getting our friend Tom into trouble. So I'm trying to remember. I think I saw there was a funny scene. Something like that. Again, ooh, that ear went really extreme. Ooh. Trying to remember something. I think there was something silly that was going on, and yeah. Uh, so something like that. It's funny, this sort of face with the mouth open, I picture this, but not usually with the eyes open. So let me see if I can kind of change that, maybe looking this way. And super prominent cheeks. I kind of picture this, eyes that look like that. But what if we had the mouth kind of closed, or should the mouth be open? I don't know. For fun, let's just close that. That seems kind of funny. Although I think secretly we should have something else. Trying to think of something else that'd be kind of funny to see. What if we did a little bit more of a side look? So super cheekbone, very similar to the way we would have drawn Tom. Actually, let's see if we can move this out just a little bit too, and that way we can get the other eye in. And mouth open just a little bit. Since I said Tom, you know what? I'm gonna put some whiskers on that little face as well. That seems funny to me. So they're very similar. I mean, they're the same kind of artists that are drawing them, but there's little features that are very different on each one. Let's see what else we can do with Jerry. Now, for some reason, that little happy face seems funny to me. I think I'm going to try going that way, that way, that way. So a little, kind of like a little bean for the nose. What would happen if he looks sad? Is that possible? Still with these exceptional cheekbones. And I don't know if I've seen him looking sad, but we're going to try. And maybe the ears would kind of flop because, you know, that would be sad. But they're still big ears, though. We'll have the little hands clasping. For what, I don't know. Maybe he would like some cheese. That's possible. I'm not sure who first discovered that mice like cheese, because I think mice they're kind of opportunistic, right? So I think they would be happy to have all kinds of things. I really like Mighty Mouse as well. Those were really fun to watch, those cartoons. So, I think the next thing would be quick, full body kind of ideas, which I'll just do. I kind of did a couple here and maybe one there. And then I'm not going to go that much further with this one. There will be a part 2 with Tom and Jerry, I think. And I'm not going to draw something that somebody else has drawn anyway. So I'm just going to try to figure out something, I think. It wasn't where I was going to go at first, I don't think. Yeah, I don't know if I like the wild-eyed look as much. But it is kind of popular. And he has a similar kind of short hind legs and then long, sort of expressive front paws. And like all cats, you should have big feet. And a little tail here. And at this point, this would be kind of the size of our little friend here. The mouse should not be the same size as a cat. whiskers. Now, I think that should be it. I mean, about 30 minutes of just playing around inside my own head. Some of these don't look very much like Tom or Jerry. It's just out of the top of my head. This seems kind of cute to me, though. I'm sure this pose exists somewhere. I don't know if people have drawn that already or not. I didn't spend any real time looking up what other people have done. But yeah, I like them to think that they're actually friends, but you know, Jerry is just mischievous and thinks it's funny to have, you know, Tom getting upset almost for no good reason at all. So I'm going to figure out what part 2 will be, and I'm just going to draw something, and I'm not going to draw it so that it looks exactly like what you expect Tom and Jerry to look like. I'm not going to follow somebody else's drawing either. It'll be kind of my version, as what I like to do anyway. So anyway, thanks for hanging out. For some reason, I like the way these legs look. That looks funny to me. Anyway, so yeah, well, there you go. It's a pile of Tom sketches and Jerry sketches. And yeah, stay tuned for part 2. And that should be fun. All right. Thank you very much for suggesting this, Miguelito. It's kind of a neat thing to... yeah, I don't, like I said, I don't think I've drawn Tom before. I know I've drawn Jerry, but so this was really fun. All right. Ciao for now.